I have now explained how changing your subconscious can be a very simple thing. If you start with observing, so you can recognize what is going on, you will have the possibility to change it. It can be very difficult if you don't really know what is going on. You don't know what you want to change. But the most important thing would be to know what you want. And like I mentioned in Healthy Roots, you ultimately want to wake fully up in the matrix, in the ultimate truth of the matrix. And the ultimate truth of the matrix is centered. It is neutral and ultimately centered. So whenever you reprogram your subconscious, you will intend for a centered perspective, a centered subconscious programming. I also mentioned how the library of choices you will have for your subconscious programming will come from your consciousness. And by that I mean that your consciousness, your level and amount of consciousness, by that I mean all the knowledge you have, will be available for you to choose as your subconscious programming. It can become the thing you think of when you see this glass, for example, or when you see whatever it should be in your experience. But the subconscious programming you can have can also be found by your intent. As you raise your frequency, it will be easier and easier for you to simply intend for a centered perspective, a centered subconscious programming. It doesn't need to be from a consciousness you still have achieved. It will become a consciousness that you achieve there and then, in that moment, as you recognize a subconscious programming that doesn't serve you as much as you want it to. You simply just intend for a higher consciousness, a centered consciousness within that issue you're having, or within that subconscious programming you just catched out. And it doesn't need to be a fully conscious thing as the intent takes place and the subconscious programming is being programmed. Your intent can simply be that you want a centered, neutral, high frequency way of perceiving something. And as you learn to intend for it and let it happen, you can simply find yourself a little later. It can take a second, it can take a split second. It can take longer time too, unless you have practiced. But you can find yourself with a high frequency, centered, neutral perspective of this thing that you wanted freedom within.